Alright, Diablo players, it is time to lock in with the brand new Season 9's new Hydra build with the brand new amulet coming out into the season for the PTR. Everyone is playing this right now, and let me go ahead and show you guys why. So pretty much it comes down to this special power where every head above 3, and remember that the implicit on this amulet will give you Hydras have +2 heads. So for every head above 3 that it would have had, you're going to get up to 100x increased damage. And, well, you're going to be able to potentially roll a huge amount of Hydras as far as your bonuses go, which can stack up to, like, crazy numbers. This is why our Hydras are actually very, very large, too. It's going to change the regular Hydras into a 3-headed Hydra that is larger, it does AoE damage, and you can make the Hydra become even bigger with one of the brand new jewels. There's also potential for infinite damage with the build. It does have to ramp up, but this is something that is actually pretty big. We haven't had anything like this in a while in Diablo 4, and it has to do with what's called Tyrant Bane. This is a brand new heraldic jewel that makes so after you deal damage over time to an enemy, they will take X33 more damage over time from you forever. So every time you keep on dealing more dots, it's just going to go ramp up higher and higher and higher, which is pretty cool. It's like Bane of the Stricken. However, it's not going to instantly do the damage. It's going to take some time. So this can really help out specifically against like the pit bosses. But the gameplay you guys are seeing right now is in the brand new dungeon escalations where it gets like harder and harder. And we'll go through all the floors, and this build will absolutely dominate the new content. So for starters, these are kind of the most important things. And then also what you want to try to do in the build, in the gameplay, I have 333 mana. You could, in theory, probably go a little bit higher, but for the most part, anything above 300 is kind of what you're trying to shoot for, as the actually did make another change over here on the serpentine aspect. So it used to give you an additional like Hydra. What it does now is it makes so after you use Hydra, it's going to use all of your mana and increase the damage by 2.5 per mana spent. If we run this on a two-handed, it's 5%. That's why we want to stack mana. So this is another newer change in Season 9. So I went ahead and actually updated the build from like the kind of pre-build guide here, and we've actually made a lot of adjustments and changes, so I want to go over all of those with you guys. So as far as the skills go, I'm going to be running Hydra, as it's a Hydra build, so we use this to do damage. We run Ice Blades to get more attack speed, we run Inferno to get a damage multiplier, we run Familiars just to get us extra summons. Extra summons equals more damage, more mana regen, as well as granting us movement speed. And then we run Ice Armor just to add survivability. With this build, you can have 100% uptime on Ice Armor. You're going to see in the gameplay, it never really drops. As you start increasing the difficulty in these dungeon escalations, I was noticing if you do happen to throw on like the more difficult mods, you do take damage, but if you have perma Ice Armor, the game's pretty easy. And then on top of that, Teleport, because, well, you get damage reduction and it's just a great mobility skill. And then for the enchantments, I want to say that you actually can play whatever you want. A lot of people were originally playing the Incinerate one, where it summons a little like a headed serpent and then it does burn, and then you'd have to run the aspect. There's no room really for the build for that, but if you really want to try to fit it in the gloves, you can in theory do it. That's okay. You can run Hydra. The Hydra that you spawn doesn't do as much damage as your other Hydras. It also doesn't get like the increased size bonus, but it is a 5-headed Hydra, so you get a small multiplier. But for the most part, it's just utilized to ramp up the burn. Remember, every single Hydra will start shooting out more of these dots to ramp up our jewel. But pretty much run whatever you want in this department. I originally had Firebolt slotted in, but it doesn't proc as often as I wanted to. It only works off of your cast, not like every single Hydra attack. And then on top of that, I'm playing Frost Nova. This will add a source of vulnerability, but our brand new like spellcraft powers with heraldic powers will also apply vulnerability. But you could run whatever you want. You can run the familiar. There's a lot of different options for the enchantments here, which is kind of cool. So play ideally what you want. And then as far as the gear goes, we're going to be running Harlequin. We wanted to try to stack as much max resource as possible, but cooldown is still pretty good because your ultimate skill, it doesn't have like 100% uptime, and you just activate it to get a damage multiplier on it. And so it kind of helps out a little bit with that, but also just being able to teleport, summon more familiars, it's all good at the end of the day. But max resource is kind of what you want to hit if you can get a GA1. That'd be ideal. And then Shroud of False Death, you can get resource gen, all stats, those are all great. Max life is also okay, just not really the stealth. And then we have the City Bindings. So these are really good. It's 2 ranks of Primordial, which give us extra damage. It gives us movement speed as well as mana regen. The rest of the stats do not matter on this. The special like power of the familiar's duration, it doesn't really matter. Basically, you just want the primordial binding with this. And then, strangely enough, we run axial conduit. Now, why do we run these? Well, just what I have slotted in for the greater affix is resource generation and maximum. The rest of the stats do not matter on this thing. This is what you want because it gives you crazy amounts of resource, and the generation is actually generated with one of the brand new powers, and it's just going to instantly give us infinite mana. And so how it works is we spend all of our mana, and then it's going to go right back up because our generation is so incredibly high with this build. And then we can run in the boot category. You can run Yen's Blessing. That's actually another great option because it can activate another like familiar or your ice armor. It's just good. You can run whatever pair of boots that you want. Now, we'll talk more about like the crit variant of this. This one is going to be the dot that can go infinite damage. Both are really good builds, to be honest, but we'll do some more testing to find out which one is the best one. In theory, though, if you have a build that has infinite damage, more than likely that one will be the go-to. And pretty much for T4 content, the dot, which is what you guys are seeing, it doesn't really feel like a damage over time, but like the damage is pretty much instant because one tick is doing a lot of damage. But you could run a different pair of boots if you want to, specifically for the crit version, which we will make a crit version of the build. But Orange Herald helps out a little bit with the cooldown, but for the most part, run whatever you want here. If you want to run Flicker Step, that can be another option if you want to really reset and min-max. Because remember, you don't need to spam your Hydra. You want to activate Hydra when your mana is full, wait for it to go up. It only takes like 2 seconds, and then you activate it again, and you keep on consistently doing that again and again. But as far as the boots go, yeah, you can run a lot of different ones here. But ideally, just trying to get like a movement speed is nice. However, with this, once you get your ranks high enough with the primordial binding, you have 200% movement speed. It's just in town, having this is just kind of nice because that's part of Diablo. You know, you're going to town, you're salvaging, all this takes time. And then this is going to be what makes this build super, super good, the serpentine aspect. So originally, myself as well as a lot of other content creators were talking about putting primary resource generation here, like on like a lucky hit chance. You don't actually need that because one of the other changes that we've made with the build, it just gives us infinite mana anyways. And also the lucky hit chance for Hydra in general is pretty bad, but ideally what we try to do with this is we can masterwork the Hydras have extra heads. We want that one. That's the most important thing because every single head is a X100, which is really, really good. And then you can throw in Hydra damage, damage over time, fire damage, but these are kind of like the ones that would give you a little bit more in terms of numbers. And then for our amulet, now I know it doesn't show up over here, but the reason why is it's not added into the planner on the website, but this is what we want. This is a brand new amulet. Again, it will always have 2 heads. The thing that you want to roll that's high is for each head above 3, the Hydra instead grows larger and deals 100x damage. That's how our Hydras are crazy big. It has to do with that thing over there. So yeah, that's the amulet that you want. And the only stat that really matters here, I mean, int is good to mass work, but the more important thing is get that multiplier, because when you're multiplying that number times 10, the difference is massive if you don't get a near perfect one. I don't have a perfect one in the gameplay, but ideally that's what you get. Starless Skies is going to be kind of our go-to. The reason why is it just gives us core skills. Hydra now is considered a core skill once you have the mods on properly for, I believe, like the amulet where it changes to it being a core skill here, which is great. So all of the bonuses give you it. You can even run Error Perdition, it'll give you bonuses. But attack speed as well as core, you don't need crit in the build at all, because remember, we are a dot build. Dot doesn't really work unless you're playing like Spiritborn in Diablo. Crits do not work with dots. But there is a crit version, again, then that one, yeah, it would be okay. And then we run Talrashas. Every build needs to play it. We get cooldown reduction. It's great. Ideally, you want to get the unique power to be a higher roll. For the runes, I'm running Nagu Vex. Vex is great because it gives us ranks to Hydra, it gives us ranks to Ice Armor, and then all of the other things are ultimate. These all help out with cooldown reduction and some source of little like utility and or damage. Again, cooldown to teleport lets us kind of go around faster. With extra cooldown of like Ice Blades, we get more attack speed because we can activate that more often. So getting ranks to a lot of the skills is kind of nice for a lot of the different things. And then I run Igni and Thul. You can run Ohm. Ohm will also give you a 15x, but same with Thul because it will give you the bonus if you run the Frost Nova, which I'm actually running, and I put points into it, so it's kind of nice for that. So Ohm is another great option here. As far as the skill tree, let's go ahead and go over that. So as far as the skill tree goes, just 2 points in it because you need it to progress. We get extra mana. More mana equals more damage. Remember, it counts as a core skill now. And then we have teleports, and then we get ice armor. This is how we have infinite ice armor, and It's really great. And then we have the Mystic Frost Nova, which gives us another multiplier of X15, and it will also apply vulnerable, and also it freezes things, which is kind of nice. And then we run the Hydra. We run the one that does the burn damage, which is great. And then we get the Ice Blades to give us more attack speed. Remember, extra attack speed for us also works with Hydra. You can get this extra lucky hit chance, but the base lucky hit chance, not the greatest, as you can see. And then we just get some extra damage reduction. Primordial Binding, this is what gives us 200% movement speed, and it's like 60x damage, and then yeah, 120% like mana regen. Like this thing goes absolutely crazy for the numbers, and that's why it's so great. And then we also run Inner Flame. We don't need this because we don't do crit in the build, but again, if you're playing the crit version, which we will make another build guide on, that one then you'd take. We just get more damage from vulnerable, we get more damage from chill. Remember, we got Frost Nova here. It's just this one gives us a smaller multiplier, and it's less uptime, but these are like 100% uptime. And then we run Inferno, we get the X50 here, and then we just look in to get this extra damage. There's a small damage increase here, but it's like costing less mana. It doesn't really matter. We're just going through our whole mana anyways. And then we are getting Combustion. Remember, Combustion took a massive nerf, but the massive nerf is kind of outweighed by the massive buff that we had gotten over there. So Combustion is what we want to lock in. And then as far as the Paragon board, we're going to be starting off on Tactician, then we move into Frigid Fate with Pyromaniac, and then we go into Fundamental Release with Torch, because this is just going to ramp up every time we burn an enemy, which we're running a build that does lots of burn. Then we run Burning Instinct over here, more damage, and then we also get Elementalist over here. We do not take, again, the crit nodes, because we are a damage over time variant, and then we get into Elemental Summoner, which gives us bonus damage to our attack speed and conjurations, and then the conjurations also have extra bonus damage, which is quite nice. Now, the last thing that we got to go over here is the powers, right, for Season 9. So we are, of course, running Amphibian Iris, but the jewels here can actually vary. So Idol from Below is pretty good. There's another one that gives you more damage based off of Elemental. Let me go ahead and bust this one out. It gives you more elemental damage, but you also take more damage. So there is kind of like a give and a take. So Scornful Light is good, but I would say Idol from Below is fantastic because main stat is always good. And it also gives you a multiplier in your max life, which is great. And then we run, of course, Tyrant Bane. This is the thing that makes this build so good. Again, if you want to do pushing, but I want to show you guys newer gameplay. And now we're doing like the Hell Tides. The other one that's pretty good is Revere Horn. So if we kill an enemy with our summons, because remember our familiars are summons, they get to grow even larger. This is how we make them even larger. We also get a more damage multiplier, which is great. Technically on bosses, because it has to kill something, right? You could actually opt, if you are having trouble against the boss in the pit, you can swap this gem out, as it won't always be active during the bosses, but there are some boss fights where it does summon certain things. And then there's also this one where these Jewel Guardians can come to protect the relic, so it's kind of cool. But as far as the spells go, we are running Propulsion just because it has the shortest cooldown, and we activate it with our Hydra. And then we run Smoldering Ember because we want to ramp up those dot damage as quickly as possible. And then we want to run Bottled Wind for even more barrier. This is what made the build just like so tanky to the point where like it just, I started face rolling the new dungeons. I'm going to go back to the dungeons over here. When you do the dungeons, again, when you take on some of these mods, the game actually does get a little bit more challenging. Again, if you have to hold still in certain like areas to get like the sacrifice bonus. I felt like this just made the game so easy. But if you want more damage, there's other options for more damage. There's one where your damage over time is instantly consumed off of a lucky hit chance. You can run that one as well. I found it to be completely unnecessary. I was trying out both, but as you go higher in the pit, you may want to consider that one. And then we have Sapping Crux. So our Catalyst is going to apply vulnerability. With this season, it is a little bit more difficult to apply vulnerability with the Sorc. I mean, normally you could just pop your ultimate, but this is not like an ultimate only build. So during the downtime, I really liked having this to apply vulnerability with our spell. And then also, this is what makes us get infinite resources, and this is what makes the build so much stronger. Reactive Ooze. So when we activate our Catalyst, it grants us 20% of our maximum resource generation per second for the next 10 seconds. So this is a massive, massive increase. You can also get mana regen on your boots, and then this can be even faster, but 2 seconds I feel like is totally fine. That's what we currently have, as long as we happen to have lots of ranks into Primordial Binding. This is just going to let us, again, if you see when I cast Hydra, our mana goes back. It takes 2 seconds for our mana to go to full. If you do want to run mana per second, you can technically get it up to 1, but I find it to be unnecessary. There is a limit on how many Hydras. You can see that it says 3. If you run the enchant, it breaks that though. lets it go way higher. In fact, the enchant is kind of broken. You can see it's like 10,000 on the Hydra right now. It probably will get fixed, but it's just a number of like the mana spent here. But this is what makes it so easy for a lot of builds, and I want to say this is probably one that is kind of OP for any build, not even the Sorc. So if you're running into resource issues with any builds, this is going to really make things so easy in Season 9. Highly recommend running this in lots of different builds. But anyways, that's going to be the updated Hydra build guide. If there's any updates to the build, I'll update it via the planner, and if there's a video that it will be necessary because we do a big change, I'll also update you guys. But the planner will be linked down below as well as the link in the bio. If there's any ways to improve the build, definitely let me know, as the PTR, sometimes people discover some crazy bugs and interactions. But as far as it goes, yeah, this is probably one of the top tier builds that most people will be wanting to play. It is a blast to play. You just kind of throw down your things like turrets and you move along. That's pretty much how it works. And then make sure that you keep up your summons. You can also run the Set rune, which gives you like these little wolf pets. I ended up maxing out so often with my pets anyways, like the little summons with familiar with this, because it gives you basically 2 charges, and you can just activate 2 times, and that's 6, and then you activate your Ice Blades, and then that's 7, and then once you use Hydra 1 time, because of the enchant, it gives you instantly 9. Like, you get 9 right off the bat, and then you just cast your other Hydra, and you're basically set pretty much for the rest of the game. And then, obviously, you're going to have to reactivate these, and if you want to run the enchant also for familiar, that you can get another familiar pet off of it, you could even drop this from your bar completely, and then you can get the enchants by just teleporting, as well as activating your Hydra. You probably still want to manually use Ice Blades because it's just extra damage, but the thing is that you do not spam Hydra, okay? This is something important real quick that I should mention at the very end here, is that don't spam Hydra. You want to activate Hydra, wait 2 seconds, then activate Hydra again. You want the Hydra to consume your mana, otherwise the Hydra's not doing the big DPS. Remember that the brand new aspect over here does more damage per mana consumed. Now, on a 2-hander, this is 5% per, and then when you have 300 mana, that's a pretty big number, right? And that's why this build is crazy good for DPS. But anyways, that's going to wrap it up. If you guys enjoyed it, drop a like on it. If you're new here, hit subscribe, turn the bell if you want to be updated on this build as well as other builds in the future for the next season. But yeah, this dungeon escalation, you're gonna have no problems with the bosses at the very end. But anyways, take care, and I'll catch you guys in the next video. Also, I'll be dropping some pit gameplay. I just want to show off the new escalations.